Hey everybody, it's been a while. My kids are back in school and I thought, oh, I'm gonna have plenty of time to make videos, but somehow that just hasn't been the case. It's been so busy around here. But I finally got this video finished. It's a long one, as you can see. This isn't an extreme budget video. This is more of a realistic budget video. I spent about $54 on food for 5 dinners, and they are very flavorful and high in protein, versatile, nutritious. The dinners were hearty enough for the 4 of us that there was enough left for anyone who wanted to have some for lunch the next day. I also had quite a bit of ingredients left at the end of the week, but unfortunately I can't find any footage of that. I am certain I recorded what was left, so I'm very sorry that I can't find that. I'm going to give you a rundown of what the meals are that we did. So we did, the first night we had pulled pork sandwiches, the second night we had egg rolls and fried rice, and then the next night was tacos, and then fourth night was bolognese, and the last night was red beans and rice. So in the description, I have put some of the recipes from this video, as well as a list of food and how much I paid for each item. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope it is helpful to you, or at the very least, entertaining. So here we go. Here are the items that I have picked up for this week. Let's start with the produce. Cilantro, celery, 2 limes, a head of lettuce, 2 bell peppers, 1 cucumber, 5 Roma tomatoes, a 2-pound bag of carrots, head of cabbage. It's actually a pretty small one. And then 2 red onions. All right, let's go back here. We have a packet of taco seasoning, a package of egg roll wrappers, bottle of barbecue sauce, can of refried beans, a 28-ounce can of whole tomatoes, 2 pounds of all-purpose flour, a bag of hamburger buns, 2 pounds of rice. Just to let you guys know, I won't be breaking into that bag because I have bulk rice here, so I'm going to pull out 2 pounds of my bulk rice to use this week so I don't open a new package. Just wanted to be right there in the open with you guys about what my plan is. Whoops, dropping things here. 1 pound of spaghetti, a 1-pound bag of dried red beans, a ginger root. Our meat for this week is this pork shoulder butt roast. And that's going to be, I mean, there's a lot there. 11.31 pounds. But we will divide that into our 5 meals. And then we have 1 small pint container of whole milk and Creole seasoning. Fortunately, I did not have to buy this new. I already had it, but I am going to include it because it is important to have, and not everyone has that. A pound of sharp cheddar and 6 eggs and frozen peas and carrots. I think I got everything here, but these are the must-haves. And let's move over to pantry items. All right, here's our pantry items. A little bit different this week because it is not an extreme budget. It is more to show you some things you can do with a pork shoulder. So these are the items I'm using for my pantry this week. I'm using oil, vinegar, soy sauce, mayonnaise, bouillon, and then salt, pepper, garlic powder, and onion powder, which I always use. And then here I have shown you that I need a little bit of bay leaves and a little bit of nutmeg. You can, if you do need it, you can get them by the ounce in your store if they have, not the whole nutmeg, but the powdery stuff, by the ounce in your store if they have that bulk section. Even if you had to buy every one of these items new, which I think most of us do have in our pantry, it would be $8.69. Okay, so I had 2 pounds of rice in that bag at the beginning. I told you I was going to be using my bulk rice because I didn't want to open that bag. Here is exactly 2 pounds. I'm just going to go ahead and put that in a container so I have that to use for this week. Here's the items I'm going to start with today. First and foremost, today we are going to be dividing up this roast, and we'll be cooking quite a bit of it today in the pressure cooker, but the rest of it will get divvied up between what's going to what days. We'll also need some of the cheese, about half cucumber, 1 or 2 carrots, tomato, lettuce, some cabbage, and the buns. Today we're having pulled pork sandwiches with coleslaw and a salad on the side. going to give you guys a quick rundown of the meat. What I have on this cutting board is going in the pressure cooker tonight. It will be enough for our pulled pork sandwiches for tonight and tacos for when we have tacos. In this pot, I have put all the fat. We are going to be rendering the fat because that will be the fat we are going to use to make tortillas this week. And whatever else we want to use the fat for. These chunks, this one here is going into a Ziploc. It is our bone that we will use for the red beans and rice. And here we have two meals worth of the rest of the pork roast. We are going to be grinding it for our meals, well, except for the small piece that's going to stay, and I'm going to cut it, I think. But anyway, I'm going to grind that another day, and I will be putting that in some Ziplocs. But that's where I am. I'm probably going to clean up the pulled pork meat a little bit more, and I'll get that in the pressure cooker. I have changed my mind a little bit on the grinding. I'm going to grind it today because I only want to work with the raw meat for one day. So this is how I'm going to grind it. I'm going to use my little food processor, and I'm going to grind the meat. It's going to take me a little bit of time, but that's okay. Taking a break from the grinding because that's taking a little bit longer. I need to get the pulled pork cooking. So into my pressure cooker, I'm putting just a small amount of oil. And now I'm going to put my pork pieces in. Okay, so then generally I just put a little bit of salt and pepper in there and then barbecue sauce. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. If you would like to put other flavorings in, you always can, no problem. This is just how I've done it, and it's worked for us. And yes, you will have some of the barbecue flavor on the meat when you do the tacos as well. But the thing is I don't use a whole lot. It's just not coming out, guys. I'm really not putting a lot in. Here we go. So I would say I put in about a third of the bottle. So if you want it more flavored, put in more. Less, you can put in less. But yeah, about a third of the bottle. And now I'm going to put in about that much in water as well. Okay, now I'm going to set my cooker to cook at the meat setting for 1 hour. Okay, the pork is all ground up. It made a lot more than I expected, so I'm going to save this chunk to go into the bag with the other solid piece. But other than that, I'm going to divide what's there in half. I think in half. We'll see. I'll let you know. Here is all the fat I'm going to render. I'm going to get this cut into the smallest pieces I can and get that on the stovetop to get out the fat. An update on the ground pork. I decided to grind that extra chunk that I had left, and now I have these divided up. This, I don't know the weight, but this is a little bit more, which is going to be used for the egg rolls when we do the egg rolls, and this is a little bit less when we do the pasta meat sauce. I would say, if I were to guess, actually, hang on, I'm going to get my scale. So the bag of meat I have for the egg rolls is 1 pound and almost 11 ounces. And then the other bag is just over a pound. 1 pound, 2.5 ounces. All right, so we're now ready to render the fat. I ended up grinding this because I thought that might be the most successful way of doing this. And what I do is I add about a cup of water into it. This one might need a little bit more. Well, I'll give that a try. So that's all I'm putting in. I'm not putting any seasonings because you want it to render, you know, tasteless essentially. But I'm going to put this on very low setting, 2.2 on my stovetop. That's just where I set it at. And I'm going to let that go for a few hours. I'm going to prepare the coleslaw now. I took off an hour leave of this cabbage and there's a dead fly in there. So I'm going to go ahead and slice the cabbage and rinse it real well. And then peel the carrot, shred the carrot, and then we'll get the sauce made. All right, we are ready to put together the coleslaw. I am by no means saying that my way is the way to do it. I am not. I'm just showing you the way I'm going to do it, where it doesn't require a whole lot of ingredients, but it's going to be done to how I like the taste of it. And it's a little more zingy than the traditional coleslaw. This is half a cup of mayonnaise, 3 tablespoons of vinegar, salt and pepper. And then I usually give that a stir and test it. And then if I need to add sugar, I will, but a lot of times I don't need to, so we'll see. And that's just the way I do it, you know? You guys can pick. If you have a certain recipe that you like using, then you go with that. All right, I definitely do not think it needs any sugar. So I'm not going to add it. I like things on the non-sugary side in general when it comes to things like this. Cornbread too. A little bit of sugar, not a lot. Okay, I think we are ready to add in our cabbage and carrots. And I'm using the bigger cut of carrot. I shredded those other ones and I thought, oh, that's too finely shredded. Let me make it a little bit bigger. So that's what's going on with the carrots. Okay, so this is all we need to do. We just need to mix it together, and that was enough of the dressing to cover that. And of course we will be using cabbage and carrots on tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be using cabbage and carrots as well. But this is the way I do the coleslaw. I don't add the sugar. Mayonnaise, vinegar, salt, pepper. Good to go. I'm saving these shredded carrots. I'm going to serve them with the salad I'm making tonight. I'm going to give you all an update on this fat rendering. It's going great. Now I did add another cup of water. So I have a total of 2 cups of water in here. And I have my heat down at 1.8 because the 2.2, it was just boiling like crazy, which is weird because, you know, that's a pretty low setting. But anyway, it's rendering the fat. I would like to specify that we're not using any tonight. This is mainly for using as the fat that we're going to use to make the tortillas, but we will be using it as fat throughout the week where we can. I'm now going to be putting together a little salad here. We got the leafy greens. I'm going to rip them up small and we're going to rinse and, yeah, we're going to rinse them. And I'm going to use half the cucumber and 1 Roma tomato. going to go ahead and slice off a little bit of this cheese in case someone wants to have cheese on their pulled pork sandwich. This should be enough. The timer has gone off on my pressure cooker and I released the pressure. So I'm taking the pork out now. And now that I've got it all out into this bowl, I'm going to go ahead and shred it up with a couple of forks. Here it is, all done. This bowl is very large, and this will be the meat for both tonight and when we do the tacos. These are the pan juices. I'm going to go ahead and save them. And here's our complete spread for this evening. We have the meat for the pulled pork sandwiches, and we have salad, coleslaw, and cheese. Here's my plate. I've got a yummy, juicy pulled pork sandwich, and I've added the cheese. And there's my coleslaw, which I might add to my sandwich, probably. And then the salad with the added carrot, the shredded carrots. I am tossing out the fat bits. And then I'm going to strain what is left. And we're going to call it good because it's been on the stove for 3 hours and I'm not going to heat up the house anymore. I'm going to put it in the fridge and then we'll have that to use for the week. Today I'm going to make some egg rolls and pork fried rice. For this we will need the small piece of pork for the fried rice, the ground pork for the egg rolls. We'll need egg roll wrappers, about half the bag of the peas and carrots, 2 of the eggs. I'm not sure how much cabbage and carrots we'll need, but I've taken out the rest of the small head. The ginger root, about half an onion, and rice. I'm going to cook up 2 cups of the rice and just cook those according to the directions on the package. I will be using 2 cups of dry to 4 cups of water. You'll also need some oil, garlic powder, salt, pepper, soy sauce. I'm also going to be using some green onions from outside. Alright, so let's get started. Alright, I have finally chopped the half of the onion and I have split that between 2 pots, but we're going to start with this first one here. This is going to be the egg roll mixture. So I like to do my egg rolls with a little bit of onion, cabbage, and carrots. So those are going to be the vegetables in my egg rolls. I'm going to cook the meat with the onion. Back here I have my rice going. Well, I haven't turned it on yet, but I'm going to turn it on. My rice for the fried rice. I'm trying to stay organized. I don't like to do too many things at once or I get really lost. Okay, so this is the ground pork that we ground yesterday. And that is what we're going to be using. And I did put a little bit of oil in the pan, and I'm going to be cooking this together with the onion at the same time. Yeah, I guess I should turn the heat on. All right, and then I am now going to be getting my veggies prepped. I'm going to peel my carrots, shred my cabbage. Here we go. Cooking up, I'd like to get a little bit of aromatics in there, so I'm going to be adding in some garlic powder. I don't measure, I just shake it in. And I'm going to go ahead and grate some ginger in there. I'm using this. Ground ginger is absolutely fine to use. I think, in my opinion, it is fine to use. I actually normally use the powdered ginger, but I thought, well, since I'm trying to do this within a budget, I can actually get just a chunk of it. And that's exactly what I did. And it was only, I think it was 24 cents for that chunk. That was it. All right, I don't want to use too much. I can always add more, but I can't take it out. So let me just go with that. And also I'm going to add in a little bit of soy sauce. I think that was about a tablespoon. All right, so I'm going to let that cook. And I'll let you know if I add anything else to it. All right, so I have cut half of the cabbage head that I had left. So I would say I probably have about a quarter left, because remember we used some of those outer leaves yesterday. Anyway, regardless, I think that between the cabbage and the 1 carrot, that's enough. Definitely think that's enough carrot. So I'm going to put this carrot back with the rest of them, and then I'll put the cabbage away. So I think that'll be enough. All right, I'm going to be completely honest. That was not enough garlic, and it needs some more either soy sauce or salt. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and add just some salt and some pepper too. And I'm going to grate some more ginger in, because I really can't even taste it. All right, that should be better. Now I'm going to cook the veggies in this. Now I'm going to add the meat back in and stir that all together. I didn't get a lot of the fat out of that meat. A lot of the fat went out with the meat, I should say, into that bowl. But now it'll all get mixed together. There we go. So now I'm going to just turn the heat off on this and work on the fried rice until I'm ready to roll the egg rolls. I'm actually going to move it back to the bowl just to let you guys know what I'm doing. I'm now going to cook these onions. I put a little bit of oil in there. I have also beaten my 2 eggs, and I'm going to cut up this pork into small pieces. I'm going to add in my pork now. We are cooked here. I'm going to add in the peas and carrots, about half the bag. Pardon the ice. I'm not on a tripod currently. Adding in some ginger. Garlic. A little bit of soy sauce. If you haven't seen my fried rice episode in recipes I'd like my kids to remember series, I explain in there that I don't cook that I don't cook the eggs beforehand. They go in at the very end so that I can hide them in my dish, because one of my kids doesn't like scrambled eggs. But at this point we're ready to add the rice in, so I'm going to put a little bit of oil in the pan. And I'm going to scoop some of this rice in that's done now. start with that. I think that'll be enough. That was about 4 cups of it cooked. Alright, so now at this point I need to add some more soy sauce. That was 1 tablespoon. I have to admit, I don't use the low sodium soy sauce very often. I usually use the full one, which I know is probably not the healthiest, but I can definitely taste a difference. Usually I feel I don't have to put as much soy sauce in to get to where I usually am when I use the full salt one. Now we're ready to add the egg into this. The 2 beaten eggs. So then I pretty much put it in there so that it coats the rice. All right, this is done. I am going to put it in a bowl and stick it in my oven on a warm cycle so that we can get going on those egg rolls. Well, we've gotten the mixture, we've gotten the insides done, now we got to get them all into the egg roll wrappers. Oh yes, the green onions. Let me go snip the green, well, yeah, let me go get the green onions. I will be using my green onions this week, and I did buy some so I can show you what I do to make it pretty much last forever. The price of the green onions I did include in the extras list, the one that I said was for $8.69. Alright, you don't need much. You need a container. I do not have holes in my container, so I'm going to add some rocks to help with the irrigation. And then I have my green onions. They're just regular green onions from the grocery store. And we have some dirt and some water. Adding the rocks in. Now some dirt. Now my green onions. And then I'm going to add some more dirt on top of that. When I say dirt, I mean garden soil, potting soil. And don't worry, I know they look sad. Once you start snipping them and using them, they'll be fine. They'll look great. You can optionally also just grow them in water, but I feel that the ones that I've planted in soil last longer. Like they'll continue to grow longer. And there we have it. Now I'm going to grow that and use that as I need it. Alright, so here we are. We're going to fill in our egg rolls. I'm using about 1.5 scoops of this. I should get a measuring cup out so I can tell you exactly how much I'm putting into one. So take the bottom, fold up the triangle, then you roll the sides in. And then you roll it to about here. Make sure to wet the triangle and roll it the rest of the way. Okay, I'm going to use the 1/3 measuring cup. Yeah, that works well. So 1/3 of a cup of mixture inside is what I was doing. Some people use an egg wash to seal. I'm just using water. All right, I'm just gonna talk to you guys about the oil real quick, just so you have options. If you have plenty of oil, then by all means, use the oil. I do have plenty of oil and I will be using oil. So what I use is a small pan. This is one of my smaller pans and I can fit 3 in at a time. And so I don't put quite as much oil in. Wow, you guys have the glare of my light. Hang on, I'm gonna turn that off. There we go. So I put in just enough oil to kind of go halfway up the sides, and that's it. That way I don't have to use as much oil. Now, if you don't have a whole lot of oil, we do have another option. You guys remember we rendered that fat. Now we do need some of the fat to make tortillas tomorrow, but we're not going to need all this by any means. So I could use this if I wanted to, but I'm going to use the oil since I have it and we're familiar with that taste. And I'm going to be doing this on a time lapse because I'm going to be running my vent and everything is going to be really loud. And yes, I know my pan's quite beat up. It's one of the pans that is designated for deep frying. One more thing, this is the leftovers that did not fit. Whoa! This is the leftover mixture that did not fit in the egg rolls. I'm just going to set it aside. Anyone can eat it if they want to, or we may use it later on in the week. We'll see what happens. Here's our day 2 meal. Fried rice, egg rolls, and a lot of leftover white rice. If we end up having a lot of leftover white rice, I might not need to cook the rice tomorrow. Okay, for tonight's dinner, we are going to have some tacos, and we are going to need the rest of the pulled pork from day 1. We are going to turn that into our taco meat. And then we also have all the fixins for our tacos. We have lettuce, tomato. We're going to cook up some onions and bell pepper. Then we have cilantro and lime and the leftover rice from yesterday. So to make some cilantro lime rice. I'm not sure that we'll use both the limes, but I did pull them both out. And then over here we have, oh yeah, we have the lettuce. And we have the cheese, taco seasoning, refried beans. We need to make some tortillas. That's the first thing we're going to do with the flour and the salt and the fat that we rendered. Okay, let's get our day started. I will be making the tortillas in my KitchenAid because I'm in a hurry, and this is the easiest way to do it. 3 cups of flour. I want to let you know this is just how I make it. I'm not in any way claiming that this is the right way to make it, but this is how I've been making the tortillas for a while now. 1 teaspoon of salt. Whoa, I guess my phone was propped up on there. I'm just gonna give that a little stir real quick. All right. Next goes the lard. I've measured out 1/3 cup of this fat. That's what we rendered on day 1. Okay, that's going to get stirred, and then we're going to get 1 cup of water in there. One cup of hot water. I'm going to go ahead and let that go for about 10 to 15 minutes. I definitely have enough water. I may need to add a little bit of flour as it goes. But as that's going, I'm going to clean my veggies, get them chopped, and shred my cheese. I let this dough go for about 15 minutes, but now I'm going to let it rest for another 10 minutes, and then we'll roll it into little balls. I've got things washed. I'm now about to chop them up. I have the meat in this pan. I'm going to add a tablespoon of taco seasoning and a little bit of water. And then I've got the refried beans going back here. And I just added a little bit of salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and a little bit of water for some flavoring. Yep, and that's what we got going. I got the rice in the microwave. To cook the bell peppers and the onions, just saute them in a pan with a little bit of oil for a few minutes until desired doneness. I've pretty much got everything done and prepared except for the tortillas. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to use my roller, and I don't know if y'all have ever noticed, but yes, it is a child's roller, but I like the small size of it better than my big one, which I do have a big one. All right, so I'm going to roll these out, cook them in this pan, and then we'll be ready to eat. Oh, well, I've got to put the rice together, but that'll only take a minute. Last thing we got to do is the cilantro lime rice. And all I do is give it a little shake of salt, cilantro, and then I squeeze the lime in. I've kept both of them, as you saw. We'll see how many we need. That was juicy. I definitely think it could use a little more lime. That should be good. Let me get everything on the counter for you so you can see what all is there. Here's our complete meal for tonight. We have our fixins over here, and then these are our tortillas. They turned out beautiful and soft. And then we have the refried beans, the meat, and the veggies. I don't think I mentioned, but I did put a little tiny bit of oil in there while I was cooking them. And there's our cilantro lime rice. And this is what we're having for dinner tonight. I'm going to be making a Bolognese sorts of sauce. I think I have the ingredients to do so, pretty much anyway. All right, so I am going to be using the rest of the ground pork. I've already poured here 2 cups of water that I'll need to make the broth. I have the milk out. I have the spaghetti out, some carrots, celery. I cut half an onion. Well, let's see, the can of the tomatoes. And then these are the pantry items to use today: salt and pepper. I'm not going to use both broths, one or the other, you know, whatever you have, use. And then I'm going to use a little bit of oil, garlic powder, and then here we have that nutmeg and the bay leaf that I'm going to be using in here. All right, I'm going to get started by getting those veggies cleaned and chopped, and start by cooking those in a pot. going to go ahead and get the onions cooking on medium heat while I chop the rest of the veggies up. I'm saving this other carrot for something else. This is going to be enough for the sauce. I figure I need about a cup of it, and that's plenty. Putting in some garlic powder. And a little bit of salt. A little bit of pepper. I'm going to let that cook, and now to cut the celery. I'm adding in the celery. I'm going to stir that for about a minute, and then I'm going to add in the pork. I've added the ground pork in. I'm going to get that all stirred together. I'm cooking this on medium heat on my stove. It is a 4. Pork is cooked through now, and I'm going to go ahead and add in 1 cup of water and 1 teaspoon of the beef bouillon powder. Okay, after we get all the other liquids in, the milk and the tomatoes, I will then at that point see if we need to add any more water or beef broth. This has been cooking for a bit. I'm going to go ahead and add the whole can of tomatoes. If you want to, you can chop up the tomatoes before putting them into your pot here, but I'm just going to go ahead and chop them as I go. I'm now going to grate in some nutmeg. So I just use a whole nutmeg, and I use this thing. About half a teaspoon. I'm not going to measure, I'm just going to grate it. You need about half a teaspoon of nutmeg. I don't think we're going to need more water in it here, but I did take a little taste, and it's a little bit bland, but I don't know if it will. It may improve as it's cooking because it's going to cook for an hour, but I'm going to put in another teaspoon of just the bouillon powder, not the cup of water, and a little bit more garlic. Okay, so that is that, and now I'm going to add in bay leaves, and then I need to get our milk out, don't I? All right, let me get the milk out, and then we're going to pour in some milk. Time to add in our milk. I'm going to be adding in 3/4 cup of milk. All right, that is it. Now we're going to let this cook for about 1 hour. If you want, you can let it cook longer, but an hour at least, I would say. Cover it and bring the heat down some. All right, I'll see y'all in an hour. I am going to go ahead and put together a quick garden salad with some lettuce, tomato, cucumber, and this carrot. All right, I have about 6 minutes left until my timer goes off, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my pasta water going. And I'm just gonna cook as you normally would. Let it boil, salt the water, put the new pasta in, and cook it until it's al dente. Take it out, and it's done. And then by then, the Bolognese will be completely finished. Again, if you want to let it cook longer, you can. Dinner's all ready. This looks so good, you guys. I don't know if it's coming across good on camera, but I tried it and it's delicious. Okay, so we have our salad, our Bolognese, and our pasta. And then there was some cheese left over from the tacos from yesterday, so I'm going to serve that out there too. And there you have it. If you have Parmesan, serve it with Parmesan. Red pepper flakes if you need some heat. Serve it with whatever you got that you would like to eat it with. All right, I'll see you for the next meal. My intention was to soak these beans in the evening, but it is now the day of our red beans and rice made with our pork shoulder bone day, and I did not put them in water. So it's still morning, so I'm going to go ahead and get these rinsed and get them soaking in water right now. Got my red beans soaking. So this may end up being closer to 6 hours of soaking versus 8. I will let you know if that made a difference. Here we have our ingredients for our meal number 5. We have the bone over here from the pork shoulder. There's quite a bit of meat on it. That's going to be the meat that we have for this meal. Then we have celery. There's 1.5 bell peppers. I'm only using 1. It's just I want to use the one that I've partially used all the way first, and then the half of this one. The last of the red onion. There's our beans that have been soaking all day. And then we need some spices. I have out salt, pepper. We'll definitely need garlic powder and the Creole seasoning we're going to need today. And I like to use some broth, not just water, while cooking the beans for a little extra flavor. So any kind of broth will do, and a little bit of oil for cooking these vegetables up. And I did take the bay leaves out again. I'm going to put some bay leaves in here. If you have thyme or sage, those would also be nice flavors in this, but I will not be putting them in there this time around. Okay, so the first step that I'm going to do is I'm going to get these vegetables chopped and then get them cooking in some oil. And then everything else is going in. Well, I mean, not the rice. The rice is getting cooked separate. It is now time to drain the beans. They've been soaking for 6 hours from the time I put them in this morning, a little over 6 hours, so we'll see how that goes in the cooking process. This is the pork bone. I'm going to go ahead and try to see if I can get the meat cut off. That way it's a step ahead in the process of when it is cooking. Sorry about that. I hit record and the whole thing wobbled. Okay, so the vegetables are done for now. I'm going to just pull them out of the pot while I get everything else into the pot. And I'm going to put in all the meat. You can do this however you want, seasoning wise. Some people season the meat. And I'm going to go ahead and season the meat a little bit. Bone. I'm going to go ahead and get everything else in there now. So we need the beans in there. all of them. And then we will need 6 cups of water. That's 4, 6. Now the Creole seasoning, I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons. Then a little bit of garlic powder. I'm going to add just the beef. And I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon, which is the equivalent of 3 cups of broth. So it'd be as if 3 of these cups were water and 3 of these cups were broth. Give that a stir, and then we got to get the veggies back in here. And then I'm just going to put a lid on it and let that come to a boil, and then reduce the heat down to simmer, and then let it go for a couple hours. And obviously it'll be enough to feed an army. I also need to add some bay leaves. I forgot about that. That should be good. It's boiling now, so I'm going to turn the heat down to a nice simmer. And thus begins our 2 hours. Well, it is 20 minutes until it's time to eat, so I'm going to go ahead and get this rice cooking. All I do is the simple ratio of 1 to 2. I'm going to be making 2 cups of rice with 4 cups of water and some salt. Bring it to a boil, turn the heat to low, and let it go for 20 minutes. At this point, it's been 2 hours of cooking, and I've removed all of the meat from the bone, and then I'm going to toss the bone out. And now I am fishing out all the bay leaves that are in here. Okay, here we have it. I've taken some of the juices out so it won't be quite as liquidy, but if anyone wants to add it, they can. If not, then I'll just set that aside. Maybe I can use it for something else because that's full of flavor. And as promised, it is incredibly meaty because there was quite a bit of meat on that bone. And everything is soft and it is flavorful. We're going to enjoy this. And I thank you for joining me for meal number 5. All right, I know there was a lot of food here, and I know there were so many different things that I could have done with it. This is not saying this is what you have to do, this is what you have to do. This is what I did, and this worked for us. Every family has different tastes, and these satisfied our tastes and our appetites. But that is it for this video. Finally, it's a long one. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I will catch you guys next time.